Welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak, and it's now 29 minutes to 8 o'clock, and you're with Senator Moses Kajwang, Senator Isaac Mora, and Senator Samson Cherargei. And you're talking about the Building Bridges Initiative, the report that the country is now debating. Of course, we saw a roadmap given by a retreat of a section of members of parliament, including members of the National Assembly and the senators meeting at Naivasha. Senator Cherargei, I'm not sure I saw you there, but all the same, just a recap. You are not there. Just a recap of the content that we know in the BBI report and the amendment bill to the Constitution. It talks about the expansion of the executive, having the position of the Prime Minister, 2 deputy Prime Ministers, the expansion of the capacity of Parliament for the members of the National Assembly. They are to hit 360, that is the 290 elected members of Parliament, but also certain constituencies have to have multiple members, an extra 70. Then there will be 47 women elected to the Senate, giving a total of 94 senators elected from the counties. And then that means that there will be an additional number of senators of about 27, an additional number of members of the National Assembly of about 11, and also there are proposals to have that the National Police Service Commission will be abolished and instead have the Kenya Police Council that will be chaired by the Minister of Interior Affairs, and the other members should be including the Inspector General and some 2 senior police officers that will also sit in the council. And then there is proposed that IBC, the commission, be reviewed to still have 7 commissioners, but 4 of them to represent political parties, parliamentary political parties, to be specific. And the procedure of picking that is that there will be a selection panel that will be appointed by the President. Then the tenure of Chief Executive Officer of the IEBC is to be capped at 3 years of a contract renewable once, and most of the electoral officials shall only run contracts of 3 years, renewable once, but also the returning officers in all the constituencies and counties shall only work on part-time basis. So those are just some of the proposals, but also there are several other issues that have bedeviled this report, including the scrapping of the special seats for women or to represent gender, the scrapping of seats to represent special interest groups, and also the persons with disability and the youth. They have all been scrapped, and instead it is up to the political parties to ensure that they are compliant when they are doing their primaries, party primaries, to ensure that they have at least 1/3 representing women and at least 5% representing persons with disability. But Senator Mora, let me begin with you, because you said that there's that possibility of editing. Senator Kajwang says that the editing will be in terms of formatting, not necessarily of the content. So what was the real conversation in Naivasha, the retreat that you attended last week on Monday? What was agreed on the special seats, the seats for women, the seats for persons with disability, and the youth?
Sam, I am a writer, and I can tell you the real writing is in the editing. The issue of the draft, when you draft, it's a basic idea. So basically, I would want to imagine that in the edits, what was not properly captured needs to be anchored in law. Now, what we discussed, and I think I need to put it very clearly, because I hear some people saying, oh, this and that. You don't play football outside the field. You'll be scoring to nowhere. You'll be scoring to the forest. You play within the field. I mean, that is the point. For me, I chose to provide leadership to the people I represent in Parliament, people with disabilities. And we caucused, we voiced our concern. We had the first, press conference in Serena and the second one. In between, we went into a flurry of meetings, lobbying and also drafting. We had 5 options, particularly Article 54, separating appointive and elective positions. Appointive are good because 5% of all jobs in government would go to people with disabilities. Right now, we are highly underrepresented, and therefore, it really be for the common person with disability. Then elective is progressive, but with guaranteed reserved representation. Like right now, if you look at the Senate, we are not there. We are not, in the National Assembly is not clear, and the county assembly is also nebulous. The same case with women also. They are saying that the National Assembly is not clear on how they are going to be represented, especially when you have moved women reps and called them senators, women senators. In fact, we were joking with fellow senators. You see the male senator for Kakamega and the female senator for Kakamega.
Really?
and such titling, which then of course doesn't augur very well as at now, because when you have one senator, then it looks like yes, you are the de facto. So basically, those are the issues that are emanating. And I think maybe there would be top-up positions, but with a sunset clause. But it remains to be seen because those are just suggestions. It's not something you can. The only time we can talk about it, Sam, is when you see the actual bill. Because what we have currently is not even a bill. A bill can only be that which will be presented to the IEBC with the 1 million signatures.
So who will be working on that bill?
There are people who are experts in the steering committee from various sectors. So the drafters themselves, they're the ones who would do the edits because they're the ones who can put it properly in law. You see, so those are the ones that were even in Naivasha. They are the ones that presented to us. You saw them in Bomas, Tom Masharia, they were there, trying to present the draft as it is. So any issue then can only be raised with them. And of course, we are not very sure at this point whether the secretariat led by Ambassador Martin Kimani and Paul Mwangi, whether they are still in circulation, or whether we'll have what we had seen in social media of Nancy Gitao and Odworo when leading the secretariat of the BBI now referendum process. So that is not clear, but I'm sure as time goes by, it will be made public.
So if this avenue is provided, Senator Cherargei, I'll come to you, Senator Kajwang, shortly, but Senator Cherargei, if this avenue is provided, does this give you comfort from your side of politics to now go and present what your views may be? Because Senator Mwaura is very confident that the editing includes reviewing the content in the referendum, or rather the constitutional amendment bill. Will you be ready and willing to go and present your views and have a possibility of them being included in the final bill that is taken to IBC?
I think the question should be whether all Kenyans that have expressed reservation would be comfortable to share the report. From where I sit, of course, we'll be willing, because some of us who represent farmers or we represent regions that are largely agricultural-based economy, will be also looking at minimum guarantee returns. And of course, there are so many reservations. So it is not about us or what the Deputy President did say. You have even pastoral community, people living with disability, and I'm happy Isaac Mwaura is presenting a serious issues. But the question should be, in Kenya, we have 4 special interest groups. We have youth, women, people living with disability, and marginalized. So when you address the issues of women as one of the special interest group, what happens to the other 3? So when this process will come, and I want to thank Mwaura for being forthright, because he's the one who attended the Naivasha retreat, and he looks like he's the man of the moment. He's in thick of things, that he has agreed that let us amend. And that was the first. You remember, even the Deputy President was being booed at the bombers of Kenya when he tried to express reservation. But I'm happy, despite that there was some resistance from people who want to reduce this to a political contest. I'm happy even the president and other players are now retreating back and saying, you remember also the NC party leader, Musalia Mudavadi, did express his reservations in Bomas of Kenya. So I'm happy that finally all leaders and all Kenyans who had reservations about this validated BBI document now have a chance to give their input, and will be more than happy and excited to be part of the process of having a document that will be acceptable across board. So when this is done and open, we'll be ready to submit our issues and many other aspects, from the Senate to minimum guarantee returns for farmers. You remember farmers, maize farmers, tea farmers, coffee farmers, dairy farmers. We have been having challenge of agricultural-based economy going down. So we'll be excited to put these things into perspective so that our farmers from where
I don't know. I am not sure, looking at the amendments that have been suggested in the BBI bill that is seeking to amend the Constitution. I'm not sure how, or your interest about the farmers and others that will be incorporated there. But Senator Kajwang...
But before you go, so that Kenyans can be... You remember even members of National Assembly Naivasha retreat, they wanted the issue of National Constituents Development Fund being factored into the amendment. Or what we are also saying from regions, and by the way, members from agricultural areas through what we call minimum guarantee returns will be meeting tomorrow in some part of this city to discuss.
So what exactly do you want the Constitutional Amendment Bill to say about the interest of farmers?
You know, Sam, we were just talking about America. When you go to America, they have protectionist policies that protect farmers from exploitation and guard them from vagaries of weather or where there is drought. So what we wanted to do is that to ensure that there is a buffer zone, so that what we call minimum guarantee returns where you ensure that farmers, when they don't just spend a lot of input and get minimum input.
And,
So what we are
that's what I'm
that
asking, Senator Cherargei, because you have a constitution with its 260-something articles. What article do you want to amend to guarantee what exactly you're talking about?
I'm just using an example where in the proposed amendment by the National Assembly, they say they shall be established national government the constituency development fund, and they say others will be sorted out by legislation. Also, we'll be saying they will be, especially on issues of, we can even use issues of the public finance. We shall say there shall be minimum guarantee returns to all farmers in this country. Then we can just leave it on that and go now to Parliament and ensure that necessary stipulations are in place. You remember there is agricultural reforms from the sugar, tea sector, maize farming, and many others. So we will just put a clause in the Constitution, not to be specific that we are putting the pricing of coffee or maize, but we shall be saying there shall be minimum guarantee returns. This is to caution farmers so that when vagaries of weather and economic challenges come in, they don't need to get the beating, yet they are the ones who provide a lot of support in this country in terms of food and many other aspects.
Senator Kajwang, when I look at a schedule that Citizen TV has received, it shows that between the 2nd of November, which is last week on Monday, until the 2nd of December, you should be busy with public outreach and signature collection, so that after the 2nd of December until the 9th of December, you will be preparing and submitting signatures and bill to IEBC. I'm not saying you, but the BBI process. So when you hear the suggestions coming from Senator Maura and Senator Cherargei, where do all these fall in the schedule that has been presented that would appear to suggest that by the 6th of June 2021, then the referendum must have been held according to those timelines?
One of the biggest lies that has been peddled around this BBI process is that it is not sensitive to agriculture and the common man. Let me help Senator Cherargei. Senator Cherargei, if you look at the proposed constitutional bill, there is a proposal to amend Article 11A that talks about economy and shared prosperity. And it mandates the state to promote sustainable agriculture. Guaranteed minimum returns is a statutory conversation. You cannot set that in a constitution. You can only set the broad principles. And for once, we have a proposal that the state must guarantee sustainable agriculture, and the proposals go beyond and addresses a matter of great concern to the youth. It mandates the state to establish a digital infrastructure. So, Senator Cherargei, I invite you to read page 57 of that report. Your concerns around agriculture shall be answered. When it comes to specific by sector and by crop, that is going to be our duty as Parliament to legislate and to set the policies. When it comes to the process, there were timelines that we agreed on in Naivasha, but then we got the second wave of COVID. And we must balance between the need for constitutional reform and the health and safety and welfare of Kenyans. Probably those timelines might need to be revisited in light of the COVID pandemic, because we don't want a situation where we are holding rallies around the country trying to popularize a report and thus exposing our people. But I do believe that through town hall meeting, it is possible for us to collect signatures so that we can present the draft bill and the 1 million signatures to IBC, because there is a date that is not changing. The date of the next general election is not changing, and there are certain changes that have to be made to ensure that the next general election is done in time. Finally, Sam, the biggest concern is this. When you talk of an uncontested referendum, what are you saying? Are you talking about a referendum where there will be only one answer, which is yes? Referenda, by their nature, involves a robust conversation in the public domain where those people who agree will say yes and those who disagree will say no. You cannot be caught up in analysis paralysis. The people who are now calling for amendments and enhancements have been part of the process. Some of them even appointed members to this BBI task force. Some of them deputized the president, who has taken a position on this process. So what is it that they want included at this point? I do believe that as we draft the constitutional bill, And the conversations going on today at the Council of Governors, with county assemblies fora, with parliament and political parties are good enough to ensure that when we draft a bill to be presented to the IBC, it is a bill that is reasonable, it is a bill that can be applied. This process is not going to solve all our problems overnight. There will still be need for further constitutional and statutory amendment, and that mantle and that baton now is given to us who are in Parliament to ensure that those grey areas that have not been addressed in this process, that it is an ongoing conversation because Kenyans have got so many problems that cannot be solved. There is no silver bullet that is going to solve those problems overnight. This is going to be a long-drawn conversation, but we need to get to a referendum so that we deal with the first urgent issues, and whatever remains can be dealt with in Parliament or through further constitutional amendments, because the Constitution allows referenda to be held at any time when society identifies the need for a referendum.
Senator Cherargei, I get confused, and I bet some Kenyans may feel so, because when I asked you about reviewing the document, you said that the editing can only be done for the sake of format. Now you're saying that there's that possibility because there are people that are going on with conversations, be it the governors. But let me be specific. How will the protection of the interests of gender, the persons with disability, and the youth be assured in the bill that is eventually taken to the people and IEBC?
I think the person who mentioned that was Senator Mwaura.
No, just hold on, Senator Cherargei. This is a question to Senator Kajwang. How will that be entrenched or assured in the bill that the people will have to vote on?
Sam, you notice that the 70 additional seats in the National Assembly, there is no formula, there is no clearly defined process for their allocation. When we went to Naivasha, when we came out, there were some very misleading proposals on how those seats would be distributed by region. I can confirm to the nation that when we were in Naivasha, we never discussed the allocation of those seats. What the BBI task force did was to say that Parliament shall enact legislation. And we do believe that through the enactment of that legislation, we can find a formula that ensures that those 70 seats are distributed in a manner that takes care of minorities. And in this case, minorities are not just women. Minorities will be persons with disabilities.
That's wrong.
Minorities will be youth and other stakeholders. And so this is a duty for Parliament to come up with the relevant legislation. You know, you cannot...
But Senator Kajwang, since...
to write it in the Constitution.
Senator Kajwang, look, since 2010 until now, Parliament has not been able to enact legislation that assures that at least a third of either gender is represented in the Houses of Parliament. How then do you push the same ball back to the House while you have an opportunity to fix what bedevils that process?
And probably, Sam, that could be the conversation at this point, because what we have said is that the gains that minorities have achieved in the 2010 Constitution cannot and should not be reversed. And perhaps the conversation should be that as we take the draft bill to IBC and to the public, instead of leaving the matter for Parliament to legislate, then let us put it in the Constitution. And I think that is what Senator Mwaura, representing persons with disabilities and other minorities, have been talking about. That let us not leave it for Parliament to legislate in future. Let us deal with it right now. And I think that that is a valid conversation so that the gains women have made, women sitting in the National Assembly with the National Government Affirmative Action Fund, when you take them to the Senate, are you giving them the same opportunities? I think those are conversations, and those are part of the caucusing that is going on right now with the Council of Governors and other stakeholders. And to me, I think that is a fair conversation that does not change the spirit of the BBI report. It does not change the spirit.
Right. Senator Mwaura, I don't know whether that's really reassuring as far as, of course, apparently in this country you have to fight for your space. But let's make progress and quickly talk about the proposals in the bill, or is it draft bill? I don't even know what to call it, because now you're saying that there has to be another process to come up with a bill that will be presented to IBC. So when you look at the composition of IBC, it is being proposed that at least 4 commissioners will be representing political parties. There has been contestation around that. Is there any resolution or any view that this should be reversed, bearing in mind that there's an amendment law that was passed or signed into law recently by the president that allows for the picking of commissioners to fill the vacant positions?
I think, Sam, first and foremost is to say that we can't do the same thing and expecting different results. You go to look at the ECK under Zacchaeus Chesoni, and then you come to Kivuitu. They were disbanded. The Kihara Motu there was a vice chair, and Kinamuturi Kirano, who we are together now in parliament. And then you had Isaac Hassan with IEC, Winnie Gushu, and the others. They were disbanded, or they were transitional in that case. Then the IBC of Isaac Hassan and Letangule and Zibo, they were also disbanded. Now we have the IBC of Chebukati. It is also going to be disbanded. Surely, when do you have institutional memory? How do you actually make sure that people who have been there longer made mistakes, learn from them, now they know better?
You said that with a lot of certainty that it's going to be disbanded. Is that the concession?
That is the proposal in the BBI report. I mean, that's what it is.
The proposal is to vet them afresh.
Vetting is just another euphemism for disbandment. Let's just not lie. The truth of the matter is, in 2007, while at a meeting in Naivasha again, Mwai Kibaki decided to appoint IEBC commissioners, or rather ECK commissioners unilaterally. That was blamed by Kriegler, who I happened to meet some time back in South Africa as well, that it was the basis of the disputed general elections. We had less than 2 years to elections, and he said that you need at least 2 years for you to have a proper commission. I believe the Chebukati group, Moya Bolu and the others who are there, they are better now in terms of knowing how to handle elections than the way it was in 2017. So when you have political parties nominating their candidates to sit in the IEBC, the whole idea is to ensure parity, I agree, and it's just like they become checkmates. But these are parliamentary political parties. Our parties keep on changing every other election. They are succeeded by the core of the other. Yeah? So how will you then put in place a mechanism where the newly formed political parties, few months to election, will be represented at the IEBC when the IEBC commissioners themselves have a tenure? So I think the trust issues are serious, and Senator Cheragea talked about it. Because of lack of trust, we keep on changing the law. If there is trust, you don't need to look behind the shoulder. So I think it's a conversation we need to have as a country.
Okay.
I don't know whether it's actually a solution, because the IPPG 1997 provided for parties to nominate ECK commissioners, and that is how you ended up with a very good election in 2002. In fact, the fairest and the cleanest that we may have ever had in this country. So the jury.
Funny enough, Senator Maura, a source at IBC, told me that the reason why there was no chaos in 2002 is because the first runners-up never contested that election, and that first runners-up was President Kenyatta. But at the same, this is a conversation that we continue to have. Later on in the night, we'll be speaking to, or we spoke to the members of the commission, that is Wafula Chebukati, the chair, Commissioners Boya Molo and Professor Abdi Gulie, on what they think about the BBI proposals. They are saying that they are ready to be vetted, but also saying that we should not have political parties or politicians sitting within the commission, sitting in the commission. I have just 1 minute, and I want to give it to Senator Cheragea to just give me your closing remarks in as far as that conversation about IBC is concerned, and what we should do, because it's already in what is being proposed to be amending the constitution.
Thank you, Sam. What I can say about IBC after sitting with them for almost 3 years after audit of 2017, they still have unique challenges. One of them is the issue of technology, the issue of managing elections, and the issue of ensuring that they have enough resources. I think IBC should be independent. They should be given powers and enough resources so that they can do. And I agree that the politicians should not interfere. They are supposed to be given time and space to work for us. And finally, on a lighter touch, I thought the IEBC should have, the BBI document should have added another clause that says when you lose an election, you must accept. Thank you very much, Sam, and have a good day.
Well, but I also think that the Constitution is very clear that if you're dissatisfied with the outcome of an election, you have the freedom to pursue it. If it's a presidential election, then you go to the Supreme Court. But at the same, Senator Kajwang, I'm so sorry, but do you have any final thoughts in 30 seconds about the conversation around IBC? Do you still think that we should have political parties represented in the commission?
Sam, the IBC as currently constituted is dysfunctional, and it has demonstrated gross incompetence in handling of electoral issues, particularly when it comes to information technology. And there is need to restructure the IBC, to define the roles of the commission, to define the roles of the secretariat, to clear those clashes that we saw between Chebukati and the CEO. And I think that the BBI proposal has a solution. Whether political parties are going to nominate people, there is nobody who's neutral. Even the Pope, if it comes to a vote, will vote for somebody. So that concept of neutrality is neither here nor there. I think let us try this solution. Let us restructure the IBC. Let us deal with the financing that it requires. Let us have people who are competent to ensure that Kenyans are not shedding blood again because of contested elections.
Well, and I think I have nothing else to add. But of course, we'll be listening to the IBC commissioners in the night at 9 o'clock on Monday report on what they have to say about all these conversations. But Tony Sanya, you're tuned in on this chilly Monday. You tweet and say that you're following the debate from Utawala, and you're wishing your lovely septuagenarian mom, Margaret Nabwana, a happy birthday. She turned 70 years old today, and to many more. What a milestone. Happy birthday, Mama Margaret Nabwana. And thank you, Tony, for watching. And of course, thank you so much for your time, Senator Samson Cherargei, Senator Isaac Mwaura, as well as Senator Moses Kajwang, for making time for this conversation. We continue with this until that time that there's a resolution on what's informing public conversations and the matters of public interest. Take a short break. On a return, there will be Sporty Monday with the team of the crew that brings you the review of the action that was over the weekend. Back in a moment.